to the Business Blueprint Podcast, where we take you on an exciting adventure through our triumphs and challenges and failures in creating and maintaining a thriving 6, 7, and 8-figure business. Get ready to dive into our strategies, decisions, and yes, even valuable lessons we've learned from our missteps. But that's not all. We'll also bring you industry-leading guests who will provide you with their priceless insights and wisdom. Stay tuned because the captivating journey of the Business Blueprint begins right now. Hi, I'm Charles Hatley with the Business Blueprint. And today we're joined by Chris Rice, who's a certified referral trainer, and Rebecca Malone, Dan Cuneo as always. So Chris, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and kind of explain what your title is as a certification.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I'm a mortgage banker with Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group. Been in the business for a while, since 2005, and read a book called 7 Levels of Communication by Michael J. Mayer. Fantastic book. Loved it so much. So I was like, man, I gotta deep dive into this as much as possible. And was able to go down to Atlanta and get certified as a certified referral trainer by Michael and his team. Got to meet Michael. He's a fantastic guy. A lot of knowledge on how to gain and build your business by referral. So if you ever have a chance to listen to him, hear him speak, go to a presentation, I highly suggest it. So, yeah.
Okay. And can kind of give us an idea of what does a certified referral trainer do?
Yeah. So the idea is to help people grow their business, kind of like, I guess, what you guys are doing here, right? But preferably grow their business on referral, From our standpoint, or from my standpoint, I should say, referrals are the best way to grow your business, right? Your close rate is just so much higher on a referral versus just a cold lead. If you're just dialing for dollars, your close rate, if you're closing 10%, that's phenomenal, right? Whereas on a referral, generally speaking, you may close 60, 70, 80%, maybe 90% of your referrals, so it's just so much easier, better. And a lot of times it's cheaper, right? In the long run.
Yeah, and it gives you more credibility too, right? As
Absolutely.
you're building your business and you generating these referrals. So I think it definitely gives you a lot more credibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In your experience, I know you're talking about referrals, but you're also in the mortgage business too. You've seen a lot, and
I lost it.
And this is just, it's great that you're here. You saw the 2008 when everything happened, and then you had the pandemic and everything happen, and then now we are here as far as getting out of the pandemic. What for someone starting a company and going through certain issues such as those? What is your best advice just to kind of remain steady?
Just to keep your business steady, I'd say my best advice is to work your sphere, the people around you for referrals. Find ways to gain referrals from the people that already know, like, and trust you. Make sure they understand that this is your business plan. A lot of times we take for granted our friends and family and just assume that, well, they know I do mortgages, they're going to send me anybody that's buying a home. Yeah, hopefully, but they have to know that your business is predicated on referrals, right? Now, obviously, you don't want to be super salesy with it, right? And just be, hey, who do you know? Who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate or and everything? But it's just kind of finding that balance of hey, look, I'm looking to grow my business off referral. This is a big part of my business. It's funny. I had friends that were like, hey, so I've got a friend that's looking to refinance. Would that be a good referral for you? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing a good enough job of explaining that to my friends. And the light bulb went off. It wasn't like, duh, yeah, blaming them. No, that's on me. I need to do a better job of explaining that to my friends and clients and
right?
The people
because on your bio on the website, which I think was written great, it highlights customer service, and to me, as I'm reading that, that's where it would start, right? Because that's how you're creating that relationship, then builds into the referrals. Can you explain a little bit
Yep.
on the customer service side?
Yeah, I mean, staying in contact with people, but more than anything, it's communicating with them how they want to be communicated with, right? So, you've heard of the golden rule, right? Treat people how they want to, or how you want to be treated, right? Michael talks about the platinum rule, which is treat others how they want to be treated, right? And so, this leads us into the disc profiles, right? Which, everybody has a disc profile and everybody has a little bit of each of these in them, right? And disc stands for, the D is for dominance, the I is for influence, the S is for steady, and the C is for compliance. Now, the D for dominance, they're going to be those people that are straight to the point, tend to be driven, fast paced, impatient, efficient, maybe brutally honest. I stands for influence, right? They love socializing, tend to be outgoing, friendly, emotional, very energetic. Think of that person, that friend you have that you consider the life of the party, right? S stands for steadiness, like we said, and those are the people that are steady and dependable. They love to nurture, maybe please others, things like that. They prefer like the predictability and security over spontaneity, right? And they work well within systems, right? They really want like a system in place. And C is for compliance. Those are the perfectionists. They crave order. Sometimes you may think like this person's just inflexible, right? And they might say it's more important to do it right than to do it fast, right? Whereas the high I person's like, whatever, man, let's just get it done, right? The high C, I kind of joke and say, think of the architect, the engineer, those types. The high I's a lot of time are sales, S's, it could be the stay-at-home mom or father. The D, those are really easy. Those are the people that are just like, let's just jump straight to it. Like, what are we here for? Right? Does that make sense? So, like, for me, it's important to know what maybe somebody's disc profile is, so I know how to interact with that person.
Mm-hmm.
So can you be more than one category, and like how does that work together? Can you have somebody who's like a DI or like an SC? How do those kind of combine?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, everybody's got a little bit of all of these, right? The important part is to figure out which one is the more dominant personality type in the person. So, I'm a high I, and then actually my secondary is actually a D. It's weird, but it works for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so once you know which one is the more dominant personality type, now you know how to communicate with that person. And a lot of times, like within families, like if you're meeting with a couple, you may see that, somebody's a high ID and then the other one might be the SC, right? Like they're a high S and their secondary is a C, right? Because a lot of times you may just kind of meld that way, at least within the relationship, right? You may have that form, and then at work you might be a little different. So
I'm thinking when you're saying that, boy, I wish I would know my in-laws were before I met them.
yeah, I mean it's fun. I mean, the great thing about disc is as you get used to it, it's fun to kind of test it on yourself and like think of people within your group, whether it's family or friends, and just be like, oh, that person's a high I, that person's a high D. Oh, look how detailed that person is. They're a C, um, so yeah, it's kind of fun, and it's a good way to kind of test yourself, so that when you're meeting with people, you can understand how to figure out what they are, right?
So when you're talking to someone and you recognize that they're like a high D versus a C, how do you alter your communication, or how do you change your approach to accommodate that personality type?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, because that's the key, right? You
Mhm.
have to change. What I've kind of always said is a lot of times you haven't lost business because you don't know what you're, or the person doesn't think you know what you're doing. It's probably you've lost the business because you did not blend well with their communication style.
Right.
You communicated how you want to communicate and not how they want to communicate. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that you mirror that communication style. So like with a high D, again, they're going to be quick to the point. Maybe you just ask them just straight up, what is it you'd like to know about the process or the product that you're selling or doing or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to know about the mortgage process? Right? Because they'll come out and they may just say, look, well, I want to know what the payment would look like on a $300,000 loan. Okay, let's talk about that, right? As opposed to me just going down like, oh, how is the family? And da, 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 da. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't care, Chris. I'm a high I, and that's what I'm going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that leads us to the eyes. With the eyes, you're going to really want to inject some energy into the communication. If you're a high S, that might be, or a D, that might be a little more difficult, but you're going to want to be upbeat. Ask them how their weekend was. What have they been up to for fun? Before you move into the business. If you just move straight to business with a high I, they're like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't even care. Like, they're just here for the money. I don't want that. I want somebody that I can hang around with and be cool with and maybe grab a drink with afterward, right?
Mm-hmm.
The S's, you kind of need to slow down your delivery some. Just slow it down. They're steady. They want to, you may want to appeal to the family, the safety, show you value their time, right? You're going to talk like, hey, look, I know it's important that we keep this house for you and your kids. I understand how important that is for you, that they're going to be able to stay in the same place, keep their bedroom the exact same, go play with their friends in the street and not have to worry about cars zooming by, right? Mm-hmm. And then a C, they want exact, the times, the costs, etc. Because that's what they're big on. They're big on the details. They care about the details. They want to see it broken down in front of them. Sometimes I'll even give it to them beforehand. Like, here's the breakdown of what we're going to be doing and talking about, right? And one thing that's important to know is the higher the cost. So like for me, obviously I'm dealing with homes and mortgages. That's about as high as it gets, right? The more somebody's C comes out, their inner C comes out, right? Divorce and stuff like that, obviously that's a big thing, right? You're dealing with the most important things in people's lives, their family, their money, and their home, right? We're dealing with all of it, right? So the inner C is going to come out, a little bit more than it normally would.
Isn't what you're saying to me as I'm hearing it, I'm thinking of, I'm starting my business for the first time, and he's talking all about mortgages, but is this transferable to what I do and how I lead a team and how I can grow my business?
Absolutely. I think it's huge. I think anybody that's dealing with clients on a day in, day out basis needs to understand this, or dealing with your teammates. Mm-hmm. If you're a manager, you need to know how to communicate with the people within your team. If you're dealing with a high I teammate and you're a high D, if you're coming in there just saying like, hey, look, you need to get this done, blah, 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 they're going to be like, man, I wish he wasn't such a dictator about that.
Yeah.
Man, he could totally ask me like, how's my weekend? Mm-hmm. It's Monday after all, or, like all he cares about is what we got going on this week, work-wise, and same thing goes with growing your business. If you're new to the business, if you're dealing with clients on a day in, day out basis, mm-hmm. knowing how to communicate with them is going to help you grow that business even further, right? Because that's how you're going to close more business. Mm-hmm.
So one thing I really liked in 7 Levels of Communication was kind of showing you how to figure out what someone's DISC profile is without,
Sure.
making them do a whole test or something like that. And this is actually a book that I've provided to everybody who's on our intake team, because they're the ones that are getting calls day in and day out, and just how you can recognize how somebody is and, be able to approach them and be a little bit more successful in that communication. What has been your sort of best way or best quick way to identify, oh, this is a high D. I better shift lanes, or, oh no, this person's looking like more of a C. I need to divert over here.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this insightful and entertaining, be sure to hit subscribe below and join us on social media to get more insight into what we are going through each and every day.